la jolie fille, le vilain garçon, le revolver, le gentil monsieur, la méchante femme.
Scénario de François Truffaut.
La mort. La petite américaine. Le voleur d'auto. Le concerto pour clarinette. La police.
Supervision de Claude Chabrol.
La pin-up. Le romancier. La boniche. Humphrey Bogart. Marseille. Mon ami Gaby. Picasso. Le photographe italien. Les anarchistes. Le magnétophone.
Un film de Jean-Luc Godard.
La tendresse. L'aventure. Le mensonge. L'amour. Les Champs-Élysées. La peur.
Avec Jean Seberg et Jean-Paul Belmondo.
Le diable au corps. Du rififi chez les hommes. Et Dieu créa la femme. Scarface. À bout de souffle.
Le meilleur film actuel.
Hello, welcome to Movie Numbers. My name is Bob Sham.
Je m'appelle Angela.
And the sounds you hear may be dogs. We're on a European vacation all month long. And most of it is French. But after this week, there will be no more French movies. But before we say goodbye to the French movies, we have to have a very romantic week, right? This particular week is a romance week. We are hitting up yet another Jean-Luc Godard movie. Our previous Jean-Luc Godard was Alphaville. We talked about that movie. This is definitely his most famous movie. And in the similar vein of La Dolce Vita, this was a movie that when it came out, it was a big deal, a nice international hit that launched these people. And it helped that it starred an American actress that helped to bring weight to it.
And a brilliant American actress. She's gorgeous. I love her in this role.
We're talking about the 1960 film Breathless, the French title, A Bout de Souffle, which means out of breath. We just call it Breathless over here.
They're not making pies out of boots.
They're directed by Jean-Luc Godard, written by Jean-Luc Godard, Francois Truffaut, another famous director who did 400 Blows, Claude Chabrol, and it stars Jean Seberg and Jean-Paul Belmondo. We saw Jean-Paul Belmondo in the Melville movie Le Deleuze. And this is and this movie in particular made him a big international star.
What was the movie you said? It sounded like you said 400 Balloons.
400 Blows.
Blows. Okay.
The porn version, 400 Blowjobs. No, that's a Truffaut movie. But that was also a big time movie around this time. I think it came out a year or two before. And Jean-Pierre Melville actually makes an appearance as, what is he, a director, author, actor, something? He's being interviewed in this movie.
He is being interviewed. He wrote something. They don't explain it too well, but she is.
Yeah, he's like a writer.
Patricia, our main girl, is a journalist or trying to be.
Now, this movie also stars Jean Seberg, an American actress, and her story is extremely tragic. Protested a lot of stuff in the day, notably the Vietnam War, supported movements like folks in the Black Panther Party, and donated to these causes. The FBI, as they did many people at this time, were trying to discredit actors or public figures in newspapers, and also fuck every single one of these newspapers for running this shit. This idea that our media system's always been some kind of noble. I mean, some instances are better than others, but like this is another instance where they ran some kind of tabloid claiming that she was pregnant with a member of the Black Panther Party's child or something, an interracial child. It turned out she was pregnant, but it was probably with a Mexican revolutionary student. But She was monitored, harassed, stalked.
One of her ex-husbands actually went to bat for her very publicly for her character.
The stress actually caused her to have a miscarriage. She lost the child. Her nerves were so blown. I think she was like 40, and she took her own life. The U.S. government pestered this woman until she took her own life. And that was the goal. They tried to do this with other figures as well. MLK, of course, he was assassinated, and other figures that would flee many Black Panthers would flee the country. Many of them would die as well, murdered by the police. But she was driven to suicide, killed by our government. It's just an extremely sad case, Jean Seberg. But she is a fascinating figure, and in this movie, she has that energy. You know that term, manic pixie girl?
That's not her, but yes.
She kind of touches base on that. I think Audrey Hepburn is probably like the original manic pixie girl.
It's manic pixie dream girl.
Manic pixie dream girl. Bjork is one.
Bjork is definitely one. The reason I say she's not in this one is because she is the one playing Patricia. She is the journalist. She is more grounded than our lead man.
Yeah.
She's the one who is intelligent and thoughtful and thinking before she responds. She's very silly at moments. So I do get why you would say that. She is a dream girl.
I mean, that
and
term,
she has a pixie haircut.
That
she's
term
cute,
did not exist at this time. I do want to point that out.
Yeah.
But I think the manic pixie dream girl has that thing that just draws you to her. Something about her, you want to be around her.
I do get that. And she is so charismatic. When she's not on the screen, it's not as bright.
I read nothing in my very brief research to signify that this was the case. But watching this movie, and when they're in that room together for like a good 20 plus minute scene where they're just having this conversation with each other, they feel so connected in that scene. I just assumed that they had probably slept together or were sleeping together. As far as I know, maybe they were. I have no evidence either way, but she was married to a few directors over the years.
She had 3 husbands, I believe, through her life. I don't know if she was married during this time. They are so good together, though. They don't really have much in common. But they have... There's a magnetism between them. She is this young American girl who is in Paris. She is working for the New Yorker.
She's trying to become a journalist. She's not quite there, but
right.
But she's going entry level by hawking the New York Herald News or whatever it's called.
That's how she's making her money. And she has a mentor who she has slept with at some point. They have chemistry as well, but he's much older. Michelle is also older than her, but not quite as much older as her mentor.
Everyone here is very free-spirited. Like, she admits that, like, he was my lover another time, I got another lover at this time. They imply that they're friends or they have slept together, but this movie seems to be them falling in love in particular.
The beginning is this crazy thing where he steals cars all the time. He never has the same car. He's a total crook. He steals a car, he gets run down by a policeman, and he shoots that policeman. Well, then he goes to Paris. His whole goal is to collect on a loan. This person owes him money, and if he can get this money, he wants to move to Italy. But he goes to her, and he says to her, "You are the only woman who I missed. I've seen you," I think she says 3 times, he says 5.
Yeah.
Like, so he's offended that she thought it was less times than it was. You can tell that he has not felt about another woman in this way before.
He's in the process of turning. He says at some point, is like, "Well, I'm always attracted to the women that aren't my type." And he's hiding, and she doesn't know it. You get the feeling that she has a vague suspicion. She knows he's not any good, but he's super sweet to her.
Yeah. We find out that she's pregnant. He says, "Is it mine?" And she says, "I think so."
Well, when they come together and they're in this room and they're falling in love, you forget that he fucking murdered someone, right? You're just so enamored into their world and the way that they interact with each other. Everything about this feels so casual. Even when he's running from the police and shit, people are recognizing him. His image is in the paper. The image of him in the paper is so funny because it looks like a John Paul Belmondo headshot just posing.
You'd think it would be an old mugshot, but no,
he'll compliment her and she'll kind of push back on it, and he'll be like, okay, well, you're horribly ugly then. I can't remember if it's him or her, but I think it's him. But he says, my goal is to be immortal and then die.
That's not either one of them. That's the author.
Quelle est votre plus grande ambition dans la vie?
Je vais jusqu'au.
Devenir immortel. Et puis, mourir.
She interviews the author at one point. She says, what is your goal? And he says, to be immortal and then die. And that is so brilliant.
Fame, essentially.
Leave a mark.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be, yes, fame so that you're notorious in some way. You're well known. But write a book, a movie, something that will live on past you.
Yeah.
And I love that concept. When they're in the room together, one of the things that struck me is she's there going to school. Her parents are paying for her to be there because she's going to school. And she's very well read. She keeps asking him, have you read this book? Have you heard this music? And she's playing things for him and she's showing him books, and he hasn't. He's not well read. He doesn't know. He's not educated in the way that she is being educated. He has the street smarts, but even when he doesn't know what she's talking about, it does not faze him. I love the confidence they both have in what they're doing and who they are. He does do the lip thing. They also do this thing in the bathroom together at some point where they make faces at each other.
C'est quoi faire la tête?
Faire comme ça.
And it's like these 3 different faces. I can't remember what it is, but it's really cute. And he does it and then she does it.
Moi, je trouve ça me va très, très bien.
And there's a moment that comes back around with both of those things at the end.
At the beginning of the movie, when we meet Jean-Paul Belmondo's character, he addresses the camera directly.
J'aime beaucoup la France. Si vous n'aimez pas la mer, si vous n'aimez pas la montagne, si vous n'aimez pas la ville, allez vous faire foutre. Oh oh!
That French New Wave touch. And there's another thing he does here in which he'll do cuts within a scene, even though the scene isn't really changing. And you've seen maybe things derived from this approach over the years. Like maybe you'll see a character sit and it cuts, and like maybe they'll be explaining something like a dialogue, and then it'll cut to them like maybe not say anything, though you still hear. Like we've seen stuff like that. But this is almost like a weird stutter. It's like a little verbal montage in between going through like a list of explanations or whatever she's talking about. You'll see like snippet cuts.
Hélas, hélas, hélas. J'aime une fille qui a une très jolie nuque, de très jolis seins, une très jolie voix, de très jolis poignets, un très joli front, de très jolis genoux. Mais qui est lâche.
And what it's doing is taking out like the breath within it. And this, and this, and this. And he doesn't do it all the time, but he does it in such a way where it just looks like it's just jerking there. It's like it's stuttering. And I realize that's what he was doing. And he doesn't do it through the whole film, just in these certain moments where when I'm editing, I'm over focused on the breath, even though it's natural as fuck, and I will often like cut it out. So imagining just that visual, right? If you look at how I edit this show, you'll see it pop and jump, right? You'll see the little scroll skip if you happen to be watching the YouTube version. But I thought it was just so slick, the way it just like the stuttering, like cutting out the parts where she's breathing in between, explaining these moments. Very sharp, very just added to the overall very stylish movie. Obviously,
they're walking one day, and he says to her, "I read a story about this guy who was dating this girl. she found out that he had done some bad things, and he thought that she was going to leave him, but instead she protected him and helped him, and I respect that about her. And she listened to that story and just kind of filed it away. And then later she finds out.
Yeah. She decides to go to the police. And why does she do that? Why does she ultimately decide? Is it in a way to protect him, or to maybe she was worried he was going to get gunned down?
He becomes increasingly more agitated, not to an unbearable point, I don't think. They need to get out of town. They need to leave. He's trying to get this money. The cops are obviously after them. She saw in the paper that he was wanted, and she says to him, I understand now why you told me that story. And for a minute, they're going to be together, and she's going to go with him to Italy. There's not really a defining moment that I can pinpoint, but they're in a separate location. It seems as though they're in a hideout room or a hotel or something. He doesn't want her to go anywhere without him. He's being controlling of the situation because he's scared of anyone finding him and putting him in jail because they know that he did it. And so I think she just realizes, I can't live this way.
Maybe she wants him to, be safe, locked up in a way, or to fight for it. But she does confess that she has told him and that police are on their way. And he's, again, very casual about it. He feels very resigned about it at first, but then he tries to take off, and he meets with his friend, and everyone on the street is recognizing him by the end of the movie.
People are turning,
you can see, and his friend, it keeps trying to give him a gun, and he's throwing, you want a friend like this when police are up your ass. This guy is going to be an accomplice to murder to escape from the police, and he's insistent. And at first he's trying not to take the gun, and he just throws it at him, but then he picks it up, and then the police come and they end up shooting him. And he takes a shot in the back while he's trying to run, and he collapses. And Patricia sees this, and realizing that she made a big mistake, I think she was hoping for things that would settle, and you never got the idea that she didn't want to be with him, but I think she wanted just to him to stop running so that they can face the consequences and they can figure out how to settle together.
One thing she does say to him after he asks her, why did you call the cops? She says, I wanted to stay with you until I figured out whether I loved you or not. She loves him.
Yeah.
But she made this statement to him that I must not love you because now I'm being mean to you. I called the cops and I'm being mean to you. I think she's trying to protect herself because she's afraid he's going to get caught. She's afraid she's going to lose him. I think you're right that she's forcing the hand of, if he just goes to jail, I can just finish school and maybe one day we can be together.
Yeah.
I think that is what is in the back of her mind, but she is saying to him, I don't love you.
Well, he's dying in the street now, and she walks up and he says something. And she asks the lady what he says. And the lady was like, he said, you're like the ugliest woman in the world. The way that they interacted earlier in the room when she was pushing back on the compliments, then he went opposite. But it meant
I love you because he also made those faces again. Mm-hmm. And then she did the lip thing he always did before.
And then she turns her back to the camera. Just the opposite of what Belmondo does at the beginning, where he turns towards to explain himself or just to chat casual. But at the end of the movie, she rubs her lips like the way he does, and then just turns. You see her head turn back from the camera, and that's the end of the they It seems like a very simple movie, but there's so many rich details here.
It's beautiful.
So well acted. And Belmondo is, they are they're two beautiful people in this movie, and it's fun to see them together. One of the best romances I think you would ever see, truly. So 1 through 5 each combined for best out of 10. This is a S tier movie. We could just say that.
Absolutely.
One thing I've discovered from doing this show is there's movies that I didn't feel naturally drawn to before, but now, especially with romance films, when they actually work, when the characters connect and they actually have chemistry, I find that I actually like romance films. And I also kind of like those old song and dance movies. I may not like the generic rom-coms that, have been shoved at us over the years, but no, an actual romantic film that actually works with real charisma in it, I actually crave that. So there you go. Breathless by Jean-Luc Godard from 1960 is in between the films Breaking the Waves and Bride of Frankenstein. It's at least as good as that. Those movies, if not better. Check the show notes for links, other places to find us. Like, subscribe. We got one more romantic French movie that was made by a guy he's Mexican and Spanish, but he made it in France, so it's still a French movie. French movies are so all-encompassing that even people from other countries will show up and make French movies. That's what Cachet was like. Haneke's like from Austria. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you think of Breathless, your favorite French New Age films, your favorite romantic movies. Just let me know. Let's get out of here.
Au revoir.